Hello, everybody. This is Primus here along with BanzaiZAP.
Hello.
And this is a lovely week in that, as you can see from what's going on your screen, it is AGL 5 time, that lovely time of the year when the rules change and everything gets interesting again. So we want to just put out a little video where we talk about some of the major changes to the rules and to the characters and all the new stuff.
We're going to be trying to incorporate them as much as we can into our upcoming games, bearing in mind we don't really have the squad to do a full tournament rounds out here. Thanks, guys. But we will be incorporating as much as we can into normal play, including the tournament-based talent on the rise.
Yes, and we will talk about him a little bit later. But first off, we have, of course, changes to the rules.
I actually like most of these.
Yes, I've been fairly happy with the rules changes in AGLs over the years, and this time is no exception.
They use it to clarify some things or to try new variations on things. And so anything in red, as you see on the screen, is what's new.
Right, and this is right from the AGL 5 PDF that you can get from the Aristeia website. So frags have changed again in how they give out tactics card. It used to be you got a tactics card every time you frag somebody.
And then it became you got one tactic at the end if you fragged anybody during the turn.
Now you get a single tactics card for your first frag in a round, and it's immediate. You don't have to wait to the end. You get it right away, which again I think is really good because you get that tactic.
But you don't get any others for it.
Right. It is only one, period, end of story. The Tau clarifications are so that if Tau is your first frag of the round, you will get no cards, period, end of story, sorry you lose.
What's interesting is that includes other effects. You'll get the final victory points at the tactics for victory at the end of the scenario. But for example, cards or even Oberon's ability get negated by this. Because you can't gain any tactic unless it's a scenario specified by the scenario.
Tau continues to get more and more annoying. So
the criticals are nice because they're basically simplifying it. You either choose the special effect or two of the standard.
And this is a return to, I believe, the AGL 3 rules.
Something
like this is. Another big change is with rerolls. Now, it was possible through the use of tactics and people's abilities and things to be able to have multiple rerolls on a turn. That is no longer the case, and a single die can only ever be rerolled once, period.
So make sure you choose wisely and don't try to stack, because that ain't gonna happen.
Change to the stun effects is that now you have to choose which symbol you're removing before the roll happens. You can't just pull it off afterwards.
But you can hedge your bets, for example, if you're going up against Miyamoto, for example. You could pull a shield just to try to reduce his chance of getting his switch.
Right. Marked is also a nice change in that you are now able to choose from either re-rolling one die on the roll against the marked target or consuming the marked token and just getting a flat single success out of it.
And this counts for any action, not just attacks.
Right.
So you can get some fun little tricks if you just want that star.
Importantly, whatever action you do is applied before the critical block step. So you got to make sure to do it. You roll and you do it right then.
Immediately.
And also, you can only get these effects if you are not adjacent to the target.
Mark still doesn't have much effect in melee.
And you also can't get the effects if the marked was placed on the opponent by you.
So, for example, if PRYSM marks herself, you cannot get the special bonus when you attack her.
No shenanigans.
Hidden is tweaked a little bit so that, for example, any green action that targets an enemy will indeed remove your hidden.
No hiding out with KOORIE Queen throwing bounces around and doing damage and just sitting there and saying, hi, hidden. So yeah, again, I think altogether fairly decent changes.
Streamline things, and then I think it's going to be a lot of fun for us to play with.
Now we're getting into the balance changes that are made as part of the Last Dance tournament mod. Please have to excuse my horrible Photoshop skills in mocking up these cards. So we're going to start off with, this is the new card for Mendoza.
He has been updated and tweaked just a little bit.
Just a little bit. When we go to the next slide, you see this is, I'm sorry, where my poor Photoshop skills come in.
And really the only thing that's changed from Mendoza is that hit point number. How many health does he have?
Old card is on the left, new card is on the right, and a boost up to 4 health is actually a really good boost for Mendoza.
He needed some durability. He was easy to take off the field, and now he has a chance of healing himself before he's removed.
Next up is Dart, who has gotten a fairly minor change, but still a fairly significant change in that the poison switch on her Silent Death attack now only costs 1 bang instead of 2. It was really hard to get multiple poison attacks on
of any hit. Now she has a much better chance to get multiples.
Easily you could get 2 or 3 or even 4 now on the roll if you do good.
You can get. I don't think there's a red side with 2.
Moving on is Luna. Again, a simple yet significant change in that her general switch to nullify a shield is now only 1 bang instead of 2.
So she is removing shields a little more frequently. Now, another change to it you'll notice, now it's only on a combat roll.
Yes.
So for example, she can't try to use it on a disengage to get away from somebody.
Right. Next up is PRYSM. PRYSM's had a couple of changes. You can see that her agility and brawn stats have changed just a little bit. Now it is much harder for you to disengage from PRYSM, but it is much harder for you to disengage from PRYSM. And I'm a little confused, don't worry about it.
Actually, it doesn't change the odds of doing either one, but it's really more of the odds on getting switches in different places.
Right. Now PRYSM can no longer use that run around and disengage and almost be guaranteed of getting her super taunt.
3 taunts out there.
And you will also see a slight boost to the range of her gamma radiation attack. It is now 1 to 3 instead of 1 to 2.
She doesn't have to get quite so close to start playing with people.
Moving on to Bichet. Bichet is actually a very interesting change that I think is very helpful for her.
A couple of things really help, and one of them isn't...
I think I got them both, didn't I?
Well, definitely we've got a little more improvement to just the smoke. Here's a case where she can never be taken, really, below her 2 energy.
Right, let me move back to the full card. You can see with her 3 energy, it was always very rough. When she got sent to the infirmary and came back, she would only be on 1 energy. Now she'll be on 2.
That's really the main point for her update, is it's harder to really cripple her. She's a little easier about coming back, because there's a couple other ways to get the energy off her.
On to Eclipse.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes, Eclipse has had her moon cycle, the range increased to include herself.
So she can now moon cycle without having to depend on the switch.
Also, her Penumbra ability also has been increased to include her.
She can finally turn herself hidden.
Very nice. It keeps her alive a little bit longer, gives her a bit more utility.
One thing she definitely missed.
And Shona, one of BanzaiZAP's favorite, who's actually going to be playing her in a little bit, several changes.
All kinds of upgrades.
First, you'll see is that lovely movement going to 5 from 4. Now she can move. Her general switch has been changed from flip to remove a state.
And gotten cheaper at the same time.
It was always a little rough. Just flipping a state on yourself is, you're going to be taking damage if it's burning or if it's poison. Now it's just gone.
It could be used, for example, to put a +1 X, flip it back to a +2, some beneficial ones, or flip a focused back up to last longer. But really removing it for a single bang gives her survivability a lot better.
We also see where her target display switch on Hit the Blade has been reduced to 1 success instead of 2, which I also think is a very good thing. It was always rough having to mark 2 of your successes on a
whether or not it would trigger at all became questionable in some cases.
KOORIE Queen.
Another of my favorites, but this one was mostly a modification to the way she does her hidden. If you can get it on her, it won't go away unless you actually target somebody with something. It won't flip naturally on its own.
I guess there was some concern as to her ability to sit at long range and just bounce people forever and ever and ever during a game and not be punished for it. Now it's not nearly so easy. HIPPOLYTA has had some nice changes as well. You will see where her I believe that is her bronze stat has moved up to a blue and a black, meaning it is much easier for her to trigger her initiative switch.
As well as pin people down when she needs to.
Her initiative switch has also been increased to a range red 0 through 5, giving her a lot more range, and meaning that her allies don't have to be in close proximity, which has always been a bit of a drawback.
Yeah, it's one of her weaknesses is she has to be right in the scrum with her friends. Now she can hang back a little bit, or they can just spread out a little bit if you need.
Boosted reflexes is now a guaranteed +2 movement so long as that initiative is over 4. And seeing as how she will probably have it over 4 all
Most
the
of
time,
when she's on the board.
that's good. That's a lot of movement. That brings her movement 6.
Well, actually, technically, no, it doesn't. It just gives her 2 free points at the beginning.
That is true, yes.
So if you spend multiple, you won't get the extra. You'll still get that just +4 movement.
Lei Gung, and a sad note for Lei Gung, as this is a nerf. Now, this is his flipped side, not the side he starts out with.
Is any less.
But you will see where his closed barrage has lost the automatic critical success.
You gotta roll for it.
And has been replaced by a red. I mean, and yes, this is a nerf in that you were guaranteed 1 damage regardless. Doesn't matter where the roll was. You could have rolled blanks on the 2 oranges and you would have still gotten that 1 point of damage. And now it's not. So you got to think a little bit harder about using him. You can't just have him pop up and blow up Gata.
The barrage wasn't his go-to all the time. That's all he does.
There have been no changes to the front side of Lei Gung's card. And our biggest recipient,
Primus is delighted by this one.
Final boss, actually has had numerous changes, and we like them all. The biggest one, that energy of 5, is huge for Final boss.
He is in the game as much as he likes, especially since all of his skills are still just as cheap. It means he's getting a lot more function during this.
Now he can actually move, do a face meet fist, and a keep your eyes open all at the same time. You will also notice that his e-call, which is the reduction of successes, is now a red 1 to 4 instead of black 1 through 4.
So, for example, dazzling him doesn't nullify the cool ability anymore.
Neither do obstacles, neither does hiding behind your friends and things.
Or hidden itself, for that matter.
So, very happy about that. We are moving on now to the rookies.
Dun, dun, dun.
These are 2 new Aristos that have been brought up for this AGL season, and they're both very unique.
Yes, they've got not only very different mechanics to bring into play, but their tactics also really start to shuffle things around. They're very interactive in that they do a lot of switches and things that affect both their teammates as well as their opponents.
BALMUNG is it's a berserker. I mean, you can very well see from the fact that he does damage to himself or to his allies.
Yeah,
most of his things.
2 points to a friend, you got to play carefully, but it can really start to tip things in his offensive favor.
He also has a very interesting defensive line of a green and an orange.
So when you attack him, you're just as likely to take some damage back.
5 initiative, 4 movement, 4 energy. Definitely a little bit on the limiting side for him.
The 5 initiative is good for a melee guy. It's the 4 energy that said we were celebrating Final Boss for losing that.
You see, he has a general switch which heals himself, which is good because the weapon switch on Darkblade will actually hurt himself 4 more damage on his target.
The agility getting an auto star means he's also very hard to pin down.
Right. You also see where if he's taken at least 2 points of damage, he can switch any blues to an orange on his Darkblade combat attack, which will hook into his Dark Berserker buff, which allows him to add a blue to all of his rolls, not just attacks. Any roll he will make until the end of the round gets that extra blue.
That one Dark Berserker. What's interesting is the way it's written, and with the points is that 5 hit points, you can trigger that twice, getting 2 blue dice. Then your Darkblade converts it all to 3 orange dice and a red and a yellow. So that will be a very unpleasant surprise for when he really gets into the scrum.
Finally, you see his Vengeance special ability, which allows himself, he goes hidden and gains +2 initiative, bringing him up to a whopping 7 initiative if one of his allies hits the bench.
And then he's also got some tactics that play with that type of thing as well.
And this is his first tactic, Purgatory. Gain 2 action points, is a full heal, but He is going to end up in the infirmary
Yes.
after the end of the state step, and there is nothing that can be done to stop that.
Fortunately, it doesn't count as a frag for your opponent, and you can only use this once, but this can be those cases where you need to remove somebody from a point, or somebody's carrying the ball, and this will get you the victory point you're looking for.
Cursed Blood allows him to inflict the same amount of damage that he has taken on an enemy within black 1 through 3. So if he's down 4 of his 5, that is an instant kill on almost anybody in the Hexadome.
And all he needs to do is trigger his special ability twice and then play this card.
Dare with Me. Now this is an interesting card.
This is another reason why you don't mind him going to the bench so much. He's got ways of coming back on his own.
It is a teleport swap when one of his allies gets sent to the infirmary, even if BALMUNG is off the board.
Now, bear in mind, this says in the bench, not in the infirmary. So if you just killed him first, he's not coming right back. But if he's not coming back till later this turn, this will put him on the board ahead of time.
And without the -2 energy.
I think that goes on him the moment he hits
the bench.
That's why Parvati's thing. But at the same time, he's now in the middle of the board up against an opponent in your...
Until the end of the resolution step of this attack, no switches, no automatic skills, no tactics, no nothing. So this attack is going to do what it's going to do, and your opponent
no interruption.
Do nothing about it.
It's similar to what Moondoggy's thing, but it's even more comprehensive.
On to our second rookie, which is Nervosa. Again, a very interesting character with a very interesting stat line of a 6 initiative, 3 movement, 5 energy, and only 3 health. But they teleport a lot.
It's this guy, he's got a bunch of extra tricks up his sleeve. He's got all the fire of Mendoza without any of the healing, but he's definitely more offensive here.
We see where Impious Fire, which is a fairly decent attack, 2 bangs for a burning, and there's a lot of bangs that could come out of that roll.
The 2 yellows give you a lot.
Which also helps with his Nightmare green ability, which allows him to flip burning states and also to place adjacent to the target. So it's just a teleport. Boom, you're right next to the target.
Now it's interesting. The effect itself, if, for example, you flip all the burnings and it kills him, then he won't be there to teleport adjacent to.
Right.
But at the same time, it's very funny.
Special ability, not only does Nervosa ignore smoke, but can also target Hidden's character. And anybody who's burning is essentially marked without getting the marked status on them.
So he can ignore, he doesn't need line of sight at all if you're already on fire.
Be Witnesses. This is an interesting variant of Shona's Amputate ability, but it is not a combat roll.
There's no defense. You just roll and look for a star. That's all you need.
It does also mean that any tactic you have that adds dice to a combat roll cannot be used to boost up this roll.
Or re-roll or whatever it is.
Correct, yes.
Now, it's also like one of Balmung's things is it kills you when you use it.
Yes.
He will be going to the infirmary as well, but this is one of those I need you off the board now situations.
Now I See You, which is an instant burning token on somebody within black 1 to 3 and a teleport right next to them.
And then he's got so many of his effects while people are burning that's an easy way to get one on there.
Protective Flame, which is basically your defense roll gets boosted to a point where you can then put a whole lot of burning tokens on the person who mistakenly attacked you.
Yes, it's a nice little extra.
Finally, we have Will-o'-the-Wisp, which will consume burning tokens, any amount of burning tokens from anyone within range read 0 through 6, which includes Nervosa himself.
You can put yourself out.
And you can then displace yourself once for every token you consume. So that could be 4, 5, 6, even more displaces.
So in things like Capture the Flag or any of the real movement-oriented ones, this is a way for him to set a lot of fire and then get very far away when he needs to.
So this is the Talent on the Rise, which is a new mechanic that Corvus Belli has put in for the AGL 5. It is essentially kind of a custom grow-your-own character.
It's meant to be used over the course of a tournament, so as he gains experience, you give him upgrades and abilities. Even though we're not planning on doing a full actual tournament here, we are going to be doing some Talent on the Rise games, just so we can see how the mechanics and the growth work.
There is a very large table of upgrades for the talent on the rise. Frankly, too many to go over here, and we suggest that you go and get the actual AGL5 PDF from aristeiathegame.com/downloads, because you can really customize this character depending on what you want to do. Do you want to make them into a ranged character? Do you want to make them into a melee? Do you even want to make them into a healer?
So we're going to be doing another episode pretty much about them after we've got a few games under our belt and really see how some of these combination of effects can be used.
We would like to thank you all once again for subscribing and watching us here at Shameless Mayhem. We do play our weekly Aristeia games at 2 p.m. Hawaii time almost every Saturday. Sometimes we don't make it. Sometimes we're going to be a little bit late, like today. So once again, thank you for joining us, and see you out there in the Hexadome.